Hi. Okay, so in this section, we're going to be talking about improv. If you're new to my class or maybe acting in general, you might not have done improv with us yet. And I just wanted to lay the basic foundation of improv because it's really important. There's so much to know about improv. And the foundations and putting those into practice is really the only way to get better at it. So let's talk about those foundations. In improv, it's important that we always agree. Now, when you agree, that means you're not negating in the scene. When I say negate, I mean like, okay, so, hey, I always use this example. Oh, hey, you're a dog. Yeah. I start acting like a dog. I don't go, I'm not a dog. Like, no, I go, yes, and I really like to go on walks. And so the second rule is yes, and. So not only are you going to agree, you're not going to be like, no, I'm not a dog. You're going to agree, yes, I'm a dog. And you're going to say, yes, and you're not going to say no. But every time you want to say no, I want you to replace that with a yes, and. Or anytime you want to say but, sometimes you can use but. I want you to say yes, and. Because then you're coming from a place of contribution. And then you're coming from a place of, remember, you want to make your partner and their ideas look good. Because that's going to make you look good and it's going to move your scene forward. And so you're going to say yes, and you're going to bring something contributing. You want to not just be positive and be like, yes, we're at the park and I'm your beloved dog. That doesn't move the scene forward. You want to do something that moves the scene forward. That you don't want to be forceful. And so what I mean by this is you could be positive, but if your response is just positive and it doesn't have the yes and, it doesn't add something to the scene, then it can still be insufficient. Does that make sense? And so you will say yes and then bring a contribution to the scene. I'm going to give you some examples. Here's player A. Do you want to go to the movies? Player B. Response could be, yes, and let's go off our diets and eat a lot of greasy popcorn. Or they could say, yes. Is anybody picketing anything? I feel like counter-protesting. Or, yes, and let's sneak out of the house through the basement. Right? So those are some different yes ands, and it's adding to the scene and bringing it forward. So we want to make a contribution. You don't want to just be there and not make a contribution because you don't want to be that passive actor. Let me give you some examples of passive. Somebody who is asking questions. You're not making the scene go forward. In fact, guys, I want you to make a statement, right? Really be in it and make a statement because a statement is going to be moving it forward. Also, here's another thing. Start in the middle. Don't start at the beginning because when you start at the beginning, you waste a bunch of time. We want to get to the point, right? I want to tell you, stay in the moment. When you are in improv or any kind of acting, you got to stay to the moment and be true to it because remember what I told you, there's magic in the moment. Guess what else? Here's something special to know. There are no real mistakes in improv except for one. Let me share this one mistake with you. Too many actors make the error of talking about doing something instead of actually doing it. So you need to be in the moment and you need to actually be doing it. Don't just talk about doing it, but actually be there. Hey, you want to go to the movies? Yeah, oh, we're at the movies. And if you do end up at the movies, man, something better happened, like somebody spilled some sticky stuff on the floor. You had to get up and use the restroom. Like something needs to happen to drive that scene forward. Have you ever played freeze and nobody's doing anything and they're just standing there? No, the whole point of freeze is that somebody's doing something interesting and then you yell freeze and you take their pose and you make it into something entirely different, right? So, what else? I want you to stay in the moment. Stay committed to whatever that moment is. Say yes and contribute. Move it forward. Make a statement. Don't you ask a question, because if you're asking a question, my friend, you are being passive. I want you to think for now and not for later. But what's really exciting is you can reincorporate some of the same ideas later. Conflict. I want to talk to you about conflict. Sometimes there could be two characters that would supposed to be in conflict. For example, a robber is robbing somebody's house and the woman says something. She's there and she's like, "Oh, so you like art, do you?" And he's like, "Yeah, I can tell these aren't real, but yeah, I like these. I'm going to take them." "Oh, well, I made these. You can have one. I would be delighted for you to take some." Like, it turns it into relationship. And you need to remember that it's more about the relationship than what's going on. Like, what's going on, that conflict is just a means to bring the characters together. But then you get to make interesting choices, different choices that are forward moving choices. So remember, it's all about a series of choices. I want to talk to you about listening. Listening is important in acting. Listening is important in comedy. And listening is really important in improv. All right, listening actually is important in every aspect of life. Listening to the voice of God. Can you hear him? The Bible says, "My sheep hear my voice and they know me." And so we need to take the time to lean in and hear him. When we are acting, we need to take the time to lean in and hear our partner. It's not all about you and what you want to say because you left your ego at the door, right? And so listening. I'm going to read a quote over here. It says, "You can't succeed in improv if you," hang on, "go on stage and just start telling jokes. You have to be flexible, pay attention to what people are saying, so a scene doesn't go astray." What is awful is when an actor gets in their head and they've got in their head what they're already going to do before they even get out there. The whole point of improv is that you're thinking on your feet. You're doing it in the moment. When you watch talented performers, you can see that they're committed to the reality being performed on the stage. In the moments that they might not know what to say, they lean in. They lean in to their fellow cast members for more information. All right, so I just want to review with you really quick. This is what we got. We have agree. Don't negate. You have yes and. You want to bring contribution and make a statement. Don't ask a question. Keep it forward moving action statements, right? Right. Listening. When improvisers realize that all they need to do is react honestly, their scenes come alive with real human relationships. They interact in social situations that everyone relates to. Remember, relational, that's what makes it funny. Too many would-be improvisers think using a funny voice or wearing a silly costume is all they need in playing a character. But really, you got to commit to that truth. You got to commit to that truth. You got to leave ego at the door. You got to remember there's magic in that moment, right? So stay in the moment. Stay in the moment. Think for now, not later. So I don't want you thinking right now about what you're going to say 5 minutes from now, because guess what? You are not just thinking about you and what you're going to say because you're listening. You are listening, right? Okay, so here are the takeaways. I talked about the movies. There's so many different things. I talked about a person robbing a house and how that could end up. I mean, you could do a toilet overflowing. Let us be original. Let us not just do the thing that somebody else just did, right? Something comes and it reincorporates. That's okay if it's done naturally. Not when it's like, "Oh, I'm going to bring this back. It's going to be so funny. I'm going to make everybody laugh," because your job is not to make everybody laugh. Because guess what? At that point, it becomes not funny. When you're trying to make people laugh, it is not funny. But when it just happens, because it's circumstantial or something that they relate to, that's when it becomes funny. When you're telling the truth of the moment, that's when it becomes funny. All right, let's go over this. We have listen. We have agree. And now don't just passively agree, but agree with contribution. Agree, yes, and. Move that scene forward. Don't just ask a question. And then stay in the moment. Remember, there's magic in the moment. Start in the middle. I think that's it. That's all I got for you.